Hey everyone, it's Nathan, and today we're taking a special look into a classic X-Men backup story that has suddenly become more relevant. Classic X-Men number 7's backup issue, featuring the first appearance and death of Lourdes Chantel, who has been mentioned recently in the pages of Marauders. Arturo and I are joined by a special guest from X Twitter, Steve, who is at HowDoYouDoDa on Twitter. We hope you enjoy this amazing conversation we have covering this classic issue.
Hey everybody, welcome to an extra special recording of Xi4P podcast. I'm Nathan. You can find me online at Dazzler AOA on Twitter and Instagram.
Hold fast to your fantasy, querido. I'm Arturo, and you can find me at Mr. Toybox on Twitter and Instagram, where you can catch my amateur action figure photography. And we are joined by our very special guest.
Hi, I'm Steve. You can find me at HowDoYouDoDa on Twitter and with X words.
And you've done some great appearances on that show, and our team members have guested on there.
Friend of the pod, if you would. Yes, I made my debut on there recently, and it is such a great show. And he's done a great job of making a podcast that is bite-sized and digestible. They're 10-minute episodes, although they might run a few minutes longer, but it's great. Check it out. X of words.
I always like to introduce our audience to our guest. Steve, tell me, what is your experience with X-Men? Like, where are you at in the universe? How big of an X-Men fan are you? Tell me all about it.
Well, I'm a very big X-Men fan, and my Twitter has become only about X-Men, essentially. So that's ever since House of X and Powers of X came out, I dove right back into the fandom after a few years of just rereading old stuff, not buying new stuff for a very long time.
I think that's like one of the most interesting things about right now is that the current X fans all have different varying degrees of like familiarity and context and what was your entrance point and what were your highlights and etc. But so many of us that were like in the wind came back during House and Powers, and it's just created this cool atmosphere for the fandom that it's really interesting. And that's honestly how all of us met, really.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely, it is. That's how I've met both of you very particularly.
I casually got back into comic before House era came. So in the color era with Gold and Blue, I was like, ooh, I'm digging this Katie Pryde story where she's the leader of the X-Men. Didn't really love all the choices they made, so I can't really vouch for its quality.
Your mileage may vary. Like
your mileage may
so
vary.
Many things.
And I stuck through it with Dissembled, which was a really good arc, and Rose and Candy, which at the time we were like, what? Why are they killing everybody every issue? But now we know. Nice to look at it back from that mindset. Steve, do you have any favorite characters? Because I know me and Arturo could talk like days for our favorite characters, but what about you?
I kind of pretend I don't usually when I'm talking to people because there's so many and they're all so wonderful, but I'm a big old Magneto fan, always have been, always will be. He's the guy who is in all of my favorite stories, generally speaking. I love to go back and reread 150 and 200, the Claremont era stuff. I love to reread Cullen Bunn's Magneto series. It just gets me every time. I'm a big Richter guy, and I've come around on Apocalypse in the biggest way possible. Apocalypse shot from my favorite villain to one of my favorite heroes in X of sorts.
We all love Big Blue Dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blue Dad, we trust.
Fun fact, my first appearance on X's4 podcast was all about Magneto, who is definitely, I'm right there with you, one of my tried and true favorite characters since he was a villain. Just such a cool, compelling, unique character with such perspective and such depth and such history that he's just fascinating.
But I'm also obviously a massive Storm stan, and I think that comes through everywhere else I've been. But for your listeners who may not know me, that's a very big thing.
Congratulations to you and all the diehard Storm fans out there for the Russell Dodderman cover that's coming out that just is beautiful with Storm, and that cover proves that Storm has never had a bad look.
Oh my god.
Even in any of her flop eras, she always looked fabulous. Like literally Storm's looks all slap.
The great thing about the new Krakoan era is the amazing depths of obscure characters that they've had fun pulling out of obscurity and tapping into this incredible well of lesser known characters. The X Office is giving life to underutilized characters. Before we dive into the story that we're really here to talk about, which is Lourdes, what other obscure characters would you love to see brought to life?
What other obscure characters would I love to see brought to life that are mutants? Would really love to see like Ugly John again. I'm wondering what's been going on with that guy. I'm very happy to see people like Rainboy making appearances. Penguin Girl, although not starring anything, is absolutely amazing. I think Stacey X needs to make some appearances.
Absolutely. Good
Yeah.
call.
Oh yes, any Stacey X Stan is like amazing to me. So yes,
Yeah, you're on the right pod.
the only good part of that run, I think, but you know that's controversial maybe.
I would say very topical to the issue that we're going to cover tonight. I would love to move Leland to the front of the resurrection queue.
Yeah.
I'm hoping as we go through this reshuffling of the Hellfire Court and whatnot, I think it'd be interesting to see him back in the mix.
I've always liked
You know.
Leland. So he's just a big old softy doing real bad stuff.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like he
Big
would
old
have.
scaredy
I
cat.
feel like he would have such a moment now. It's the year of throwbacks and D-list and the dustbin. All of these great characters from that have been just collecting dust on the shelf are back in the mix, and the more obscure, the better. Whatever comic you're talking about right now, and when they're doing those deep pulls over in Way of X, over in Sword, over in Hellions, it's catnip.
We've already seen her back. I would love to see Cat's Eye get some more recognition because that big goofy purple cat, love her.
Mhm.
Don't even need her with Rain. She's probably the only thing that made Rain likable to me. So
It kills me that in like the early days of this New Mutants run, like when Brisson was writing it, I remember when Cat's Eye and like some of the Hellions were on panel, and I was like, this book is going to be the book that has like all those kids. And yeah, those were different days. I was so full of hope for Brisson's run. I'm very glad that we are now under Vita's pen. I think New Mutants is doing some really, really interesting stuff right now. So it's all good. But yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I want more of the Hellions, all of them. Anytime I see them pop up somewhere. We just saw Risk was
Roulette, right?
Roulette.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He
Roulette.
was in the Women of Marvel issue. Was really a bitch to Farrell.
Very, very in character.
Oh yeah, it's totally her, like to a T.
I need beef. We need beef back.
Beef and Beavatron. That what name?
Is that how that's pronounced?
I always said Bevatron.
I guess.
I said.
Is it Bevatron?
I said
I thought it was
Bevatron.
Bevatron, but I have no idea because I've never heard that word.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, it's like canon, right? Like, how long did we all go on calling her Quanon for? And it's really like canon. So
Canon.
Although I guess we're going to talk a little bit about that today with Lourdes.
Lord
And
Chantel. Oh, I want to get this out there real quick. I've already fan cast, so you're welcome. I've already figured it out. I'm gonna cast Rosalia. I don't know if she can act, but she's gorgeous and she can sing and she knows her way in front of a camera. And I mean, we're gonna have a lot of creative liberty when we put Lourdes Chantel in the MCU. So that's my cast, Rosalia.
But today we're talking about Classic X-Men 7 and its backup story. This is our main introduction to Lourdes Chantel. And she really only had one other appearance. I wish I could have had you guys read it. It's in X-Men the Hellfire Club, the 4th issue of it. It's not on Marvel Unlimited, so you have to like dig for a copy of it somewhere in back issues if you want to try to get that. It does fill in her story a little bit more. She was a wealthy business person. She met Shaw. Shaw was poor. She invested money into Shaw, helped him become the man he is. They were even engaged.
That is extremely vital information.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's helpful.
That changes everything.
Yeah, because we just got a snippet of their relationship, and it's certainly not portrayed in the healthiest light, like that's for sure. And, I mean, breaking news, Sebastian Shaw is abusive and controlling of the women in his life. Like, I get that that's a very consistent character beat for the guy, but you also get the sense that he did truly love her in his own, like, messed up way. But yeah, I mean, let's not jump ahead. But suffice to say, his emotions come through in the action that happens in number 7. And I just want to say, I guess I kind of missed the boat on the whole classic X-Men backup stories. Like, I haven't really dug deep into those, but when you guys asked me to jump on for this episode, I started digging, and there's some gold in there. Claremont in his heyday type stuff, like this is it. I was very happy to see super astronaut Dr. Peter Corbeau, that anytime his name pops up, it tickles me. He's just a character that is like outside of continuity at this point in my head and my heart.
the school that the Children of the Atom kids are going to is Peter Corbeau.
Yeah, Vita.
Yeah.
Vita doing the good work, absolutely, over in Children of the Atom.
Obviously, I know Arturo, you were kind of like, who is this? That was the response. Half of X Twitter was like, yes, Lourdes. And the other half was like, who? What the hell are you talking? Who? Steve, where were you on this? Did you have any idea who Lourdes was, or were you like, who the fuck is this?
No, I knew who she was because I follow you on Twitter. But I've never read any classic X-Men like art, and I had to do the whole Googling, and I read her, wiki page before I read the issue. The issue is much more informative.
I was a sucker for her design, and as soon as I saw like the whole like Spaniard, like she's very like flamenco kind of diva, yeah, it really spoke to me.
Yeah, and how amazing is it to actually have a character from Barcelona? Most of the characters we're introduced to are from like
New York.
Right.
New York, or like maybe you'll get like a LA Nightcrawlers, Germany. So, but like to actually have
Storm is Africa. I don't know how much more specific, like in Africa. I'm sure it's been
Kenya.
clarified.
She's from Kenya. So
See, I didn't know.
but that's and then she spent a lot of time in Cairo. So
I believe she was born in Harlem, actually, though.
she is American born, and she was born to an American journalist and a Kenyan princess. It's always nice to get more of that world view, especially when you consider how hard it would have been for Lourdes and Shaw to have lucked into meeting each other before the invention of Cerebro or any of the mutant detection devices, realizing they were both mutants, like building this relationship of love, trust, control issues, and everything else on top.
Well, again, we were talking about like where you come into continuity or whatever. At the point that I entered X-Men, Shaw was always Hellfire King. He was always this rich gentleman, brawler, underhanded businessman kind of guy. So this issue was really cool because it takes you to that moment before he was running shit, before him and his court with Emma Frost at his right hand. And Tessa. Can we talk about that? Tessa looking like $1 million in her little like Hellfire lingerie with her little updo. She just looks like just a very great era. I know she was robbed of all agency. I know she was a side character that Claremont was playing with. I'm glad he was able to like revisit the character and give her a moment in the sunshine during the Extreme X-Men, because talk about a great character that is just kind of like in the background, but there's so much more happening under the surface. It's one of those great retcons.
That was probably my favorite thing to come out of the Revolution. Kitty was able to show some growth. She was able to get away from the X-Men during that period, although we had no idea what happened to her for the longest time. We were like, did she die? What happened? I didn't love a lot of the things he did, like giving Kitty the claw. That was like, that's kind of weird, just to pick up some adamantium claws from Wolverine and put them in your costume. But
I think Kitty did that a lot, though. I mean, in different AUs, different timelines. Age of Apocalypse?
Yeah, they did. Age of Apocalypse, they gave her, I don't think it was Wolverine claws, but it was some sort of retractable claws like Wolverine. So
yeah, and her and Jubilee both do that. So
I mean, it matches with the cat thing when she was Shadow Cat, right? Cats have claws.
It does. But that's one of the things that I did want to talk about. I'm glad you brought up is Tessa's transformation from Tessa, the character we knew her as, like you said, she was Shaw's sidekick. And now she's such a pivotal part of the Krakoan society is Sage. And just the more when we learned that backstory, how she was actually with Xavier from the very beginning, like at the beginning of when he started the school. And this poor girl, how he decided she wasn't good enough to be one of the X-Men, that she had to be sent off to go keep tabs of this rogue agency in the Hellfire Club. You guys have any thoughts about Sage's evolution from Tessa into Sage?
I think she makes a huge change from a not interesting character to an interesting character is, I think, the biggest thing. I see a lot of people talk a lot about how Sage is not an interesting character, and I'm not as versed in her history as Sage, but as she is now, she's very interesting to me. Unfortunately, she does not get a lot of time to do much more than be snarky.
I'm a fan of where she's at right now and the way in which she's helping, but I think for me it would have been a little bit more gratifying for her to be on the current Hellfire Court for Hellfire Trading Club as the Black Queen, because I think she would absolutely dominate.
Yeah, if anybody's put in the time she has.
It would definitely add to this whole the girls get it done kind of vibe. Like we've got the Red Queen, the White Queen, the Black Queen. I would love that.
I agree with you on that, because she has, not only with Shaw, but when Roberto da Costa took his position in the Hellfire Club, she left to go help train him, guide him as the Black King. There's a lot of history with her, one, being forced into the Hellfire Club, but two, wanting to go in and help guide these people into becoming more of a benevolent benevolent leader, business person, not as ruthless, and becoming more than that. One thing also that really struck me in this story was that it gave us a more human understanding of Emma Frost. At the time, it was before Generation X, so she hadn't gone through her big revamping as a anti-hero or a more neutrally moral person who has the right goals in mind. We did see some of it in New Mutants around the same time, where she was shown to care for the Hellions in a way that her White Queen persona in Uncanny at the time really didn't allow for. But you can see how genuinely upset she is about the information she receives from the comatose Colonel Rossi, which is another really cool deep cut in the Marvel right there, to have Colonel Rossi be the one she gets information from. A lot of people like to blow up the fact that she telepathically controlled Edward Buckman to kill the Hellfire ruling class at the time. But when you look at the actions behind it, I really think it's totally justified.
People not think that's justified, actually, because it was.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
gonna exterminate mutants, she was
I
right.
mean, yeah, X is for Emma's apologists. Yeah, we're all here in force. Yeah, totally justified, but very cold. I mean, she literally mowed down their opposition. Like,
That was self-defense.
it would, well, yeah, self-defense, but like also like I'm not going to like take Emma's fangs. Self-defense to an extent. Emma did what needed to be done. Emma Frost, freedom fighter.
They did send Sentinels after them, so that's pretty.
Can I
that's
say
pretty
that
vicious.
this version of the Hellfire Club that's in this issue specifically is unlike any I've ever seen during the Claremont era. It is a different side of all of them, and I think they're all better for it. I think it's a different side of Shaw than I've ever seen, because what I remember Shaw sending Sentinels after the New Mutants and being like, yeah, this is what I do. I don't care about mutants. In this issue, he cares very much the Sentinels are being used to exterminate mutants rather than just capture a few. And Emma Frost is like, she's great in this. She's far more sympathetic than she was during this actual period of publishing. And she just, I don't know, she spends a lot of this issue just being, yes, she is Emma Frost. Yes, she is at this time a cruel, calculating villainess who has stepped on other mutants to get where she is in society, but she also has always obviously cared about her children. She's always cared about what's best for them. And I see her a lot like Mystique.
I love Mystique, but I'm about 100 times more sympathetic to Emma. Like, I think Emma's a better person. Mystique is
she
a
certainly
lot more psychotic and self-serving. Yeah.
But not to be a Mystique apologist, because what you did to Dazzler, but Mystique also had the knowledge that the mutant kind was going to go under this very dark path, and she took very specific certain actions to try to ensure the brighter future for mutant kind.
Yeah.
Yes, is she ruthless as fuck? Absolutely.
I think
but
she should
she had this knowledge, and just give her goddamn wife back. But
even villains deserve to have love. I mean, definitely Mystique has done a lot of things that I would absolutely hate her for if she was in my universe. The collaboration with the government, 100%. But I love Mystique. I love reading about Mystique. Absolutely,
I love Mystique. I want to write a Krakoan era book called Freedom Force. That's my pitch. Really I've got a whole thing that involves Mystique and her quest to get Destiny back, and it involves a lot of clones.
Tell me about it.
A lot of clones.
Yeah, tell me about it, Arturo.
Mystique working with Madeline Pryor, Evan Sabanor, Joseph, and Kid Strife. All resurrected clones. She breaks the Krakoan law about the clones. She amasses a team, and they go to the Quiet Council to get Destiny back.
Yes, very good of you to always refer to him properly as Kid Strife.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not talking about Kid Cable.
Who? Kid who?
So from this issue, what is the main thing that you took away from the character of Lourdes Chantel? What do you think that all of the stands out there who are like, oh my God, Lourdes, what do you think they were so excited about? What is it that you're excited about? And do you think they're going to be able to bring her back, or was the cover solicit for the future Marauders issue a fake out?
I think the greatest thing about Lourdes for me is her immediate response to Ned Buckman. Shaw's like, oh, Ned's an old friend, ha ha ha, we go way back drinking buddies. And Lourdes is literally like, false friend, lying patron. I love it. I love it so much. She has fangs. She knows Buckman has fangs. She's not blinded by the climb, the capitalist climb to the top, like Shaw clearly is. Sean talks about his whole, like, I needed acceptance and respect, and I let that blind me. What he really needed was dominance over the women in his life and such, the poorer people in his life, the people he considers himself better to. He talks a whole lot about manliness in this issue and his treatment of Leland, his treatment of the Sentinel, even. But Lourdes is having none of that. She is absolutely very clear about her climb. She's clear about where she stands as a mutant, and she keeps that first and foremost in her mind. She may be wealthy, she may be a member of this hideous club that runs the New York social scene and possibly the world, but first and foremost, Lourdes is a mutant. And first and foremost, Lourdes is looking out for other mutants. She's absolutely having none of this Project Armageddon Sentinel bullshit. Yeah, I really like her. I came away from this one issue being like, wow, justice for Lourdes. She did not deserve to be fridged at the end of this issue.
She got fridged. I'm glad you said it, because that's exactly what
She
happened.
got
Like,
absolutely fridged for Sebastian Shaw.
she got fridged for Sebastian Shaw. Yeah.
God, gross.
And it's interesting how in the pages of Marauders recently, when they alluded to her when she came up, Jerry went to great pains to specify that Lourdes died before the Cerebro backup system kind of came online. And I love that Emma had like a little glimmer of an idea in her eyes. So we'll see what comes of that. Like, maybe we're going to explore, what happens, because it's interesting that in this issue, at Lourdes's death, Sebastian's there, Emma Frost is there, Leland is there. Like, they were there, they experienced her death, right? That's not just like, oh, I met her. So, maybe like, oh, and Tessa was there, Sage was there as well at her death site. So who knows? Maybe who never forgets, right? Who's like the living computer. So maybe Emma's going to do something where she pulls all the memories or whatever from all these different people. And it'll be like a new kind of resurrection where it's like, we don't have exactly their memories, but it's kind of, that I think that would be really interesting, because then you have there's already tension there right from the moment she hatches.
Yeah, so I'm all for that. I don't think I would have been excited before reading this issue, and I'm very excited now for the idea.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I want her back. I want her as the Black Queen, since Sage is in that role.
If you read Classic X-Men instead of reading X-Men number 99, there are a few extra pages of the actual story that they throw into the comic for the Classic X-Men pages itself. I originally, when I was a kid, this is how I first read this story, was Classic X-Men 7. I was thinking, oh wow, this Hellfire Club appeared way earlier than it really did, because they show that the Council of the Chosen is actually the Hellfire Club in this issue right here, and you see Sage and Sebastian Shaw talking together, which never really happened in the original comic. There's another page too that the art is just so obviously different that it's hysterical, but it doesn't add as much to the story. I suggest, for continuity, if you're going to read the actual issue, I would read X-Men 99, because I don't know where the historical continuity actually fits with the revisions they did in the classic X-Men stories. I don't know if it's considered canon or not at this point, but the backup stories all are, especially now that they're bringing that more into light. There are other backup stories that they have referenced in other things. Issue after Dark Phoenix dies, they show her going to Death's workspace, where he's a construction worker just building layer upon layer of this building in space. And they've shown that again in Excalibur, when they had Rachel deal with the Phoenix Force itself and deal with the personification of death in that form. These stories are in continuity. I don't know about the additions to the classic stories that they did in classic.
The page where Emma is at the hospital or whatever, at this facility with Colonel Rossi, and a Sentinel tears open the roof and is basically like attacking her. And it's a really familiar image, because this is something that is like a recurring trope. And immediately it took me to X-Men 281, drawn by Whilce Portacio, and the X-Men are at a gala or at a party there at the Hellfire Club in New York. And what happens? But the Sentinels tear through the roof, show up, slaughter the Hellions right in front of Emma. And it's very reminiscent. I didn't realize that the time, this image that was like seared into my head was probably a callback to this issue, and is also a callback in Astonishing when they assemble like the new school and the new faculty and the new students, and Emma runs a danger room kind of simulation where the Sentinels tear the roof off and attack the mutants. So it's a great trope, and it's something that is just, it's understandable why Emma would use that as a big scary fear to project onto other people, because she's literally been through it a couple of times, and it is terrifying each time.
That is actually a really interesting thought that you just put in my mind. We saw Hellfire Gala here. It ended in tragedy. We saw in 281 a Hellfire Gala there that ended in tragedy. Sentinels were involved both times. I'm wondering, are we going to get Sentinels in the big Hellfire Gala event?
I'm kind of hoping that at the gala, like the ceiling is going to be kind of like a Sistine Chapel type of painting. So it's like really elegant and opulent, but it's like of the Sentinels attacking, and it's just Sentinels overhead over the party the whole night. I think that would
You
be
guys
so
realize
cool.
that the ceiling of the Hellfire Gala is a literal Sentinel head.
Yes, absolutely.
It is.
Yep,
Absolutely
it sure as hell is.
It is. She is having it on her island, isn't she?
Yeah, I can't wait for the gala. I've got my outfit. I've got my funky Kirby hat.
I'm getting together a real outfit for the Hellfire Gala in real life, although I don't know if it'll be ready in time.
I think I'm just gonna like get a white sheet and drape it over myself and call it King Jamie Braddock kind of,
Absolutely.
couture. Just
Go in as
very
Jamie
simple
cosplay.
Jamie. Yeah, I got the mustache. I'm ready.
Jamie is the role you were born to play.
So, do you have a favorite Hellfire Gala look, Steve?
I mean, it should be obvious to anybody by now, but it's Storms. It's incredible. She's got literal clouds and lightning. Her hair is just so magnificent. It knocks everything else's dick in the dirt.
Storms is pretty perfect. Colossus, I agree. Colossus
really good.
Colossus definitely is best dressed male. Best dressed male for sure.
Very well dressed. Looks astonishing with that beard.
Here,
I'm
here.
gonna love to hate seeing him. Absolutely. I don't know. Some of my favorite Hellfire Gala costumes are legitimately the fan made ones. As good as Russell Dodderman's designs are, and all the other people working on them. I really liked At Knife Systems whole New Mutants gig thing that we went through the Twitter moments of. Absolutely phenomenal. All of those. I don't know. I like all the dumber ones. Like Nightcrawler's one is incredible, and Magneto just looks amazing. I see people being like, he's so ugly, and I'm like, he is such a goddamn king. He's
Totally
so
king.
amazing.
Him and Xavier look like such a couple with their like little matching like gold
Xavier,
foil.
on the other hand, looks like white chocolate gross. It is bad. Like his outfit is so nasty.
What's up with the pimp chains?
I think it's so funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, that's not gonna help with that's not gonna help at all with the folks who are saying that the X-Men feel like a cult. Like, look at Xavier's outfit; it's not helping. It's not helping.
Well, Xavier has always dressed like a cult leader. I mean, that's his deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally.
I remember that first time he went on a mission with Rachel and Celine, that battle there, and he wore that it was like a big yellow unitard with a big X on it. It was like, what are you wearing?
Speaking of Celine, we've seen little snippets from, I think, pages of forthcoming X Corps where Celine is there looking fabulous with a high ponytail, and so yeah, we'll see Celine hopefully in the pages of X Corp.
I honestly don't want Fenris there, not even just because they're Nazis, but because I feel like it's already too close to the trial of Magneto as it is. Seeing the Fenris twins just make me think more and more about the sadness I feel at the idea that Magneto could be put on trial again. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but
I'm so terrified, honestly. Like that when they released that was the title that's coming out, I just like dropped my drink. I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you guys gonna do to Magneto? Like,
I had to go walk
please
around
don't take us back to evil Magneto. Yeah,
Absolutely not.
I worry
No
for our once and future king.
Magneto should just never be a serious villain again.
And then we have to lose X Factor for it.
I'm heartbroken about it as well. So many cool characters that I was beginning to love for the first time, honestly, many of them. I've never felt this much affection for North Star or Akihiro. Eyeboy is such a delight. He hasn't even had a smoke out with Rachel yet.
X Factor's always like been a weird title, and it's at its best when it's at its weirdest. I know
so many unanswered questions. It would be great if someday the team got a chance to get back on the title. I hope that that those questions are explored elsewhere, obviously. The possibility of transmutants and what resurrection holds for them. It's so important to find out what Krakoa is doing about transmutants. And I mean, we don't see any on the page because Marvel is too afraid, apparently, to put any on there.
It's a type of thing that just feels like such low-hanging fruit. Like, it's like, just give us and I mean, and to their credit, Vita has definitely brought some trans or non-binary mutants in the mix, but it definitely feels like there is fertile soil there. I understand why some creators are like, that's not my story to tell. I get that that's like a sticky situation, but I would love to see it happen on page, and I really thought that that was one of the things that Leah was going to explore. So
they need to get the people who can tell those stories on this.
Exactly. The answer is always more, right? More representation, more
writers.
Diversity, more. Yeah.
No,
exactly.
then there's even Mags, right? They could get Mags back on. She did an amazing Dazzler solo book for it was one issue, but she did that amazing Dazzler Exxon. So there are writers out there that they could use that are well versed in these stories and have proven themselves in so many different ways that could bring these characters in. I agree. Not having any trans mutants that we really know of. Yes, I think we have Jessie Drake, but Jessie Drake hasn't shown up in how long?
Maybe. Have you seen her? I haven't seen her on Krakoa, so I would love to see her. But
it's kind of like when you look back at Doom Patrol, even like Rachel Pollack had this amazing run on Doom Patrol, created Coagula, who is an amazing character, and Coagula ever since the Pollack run has not shown up anywhere. There's that Pollack run is the only run of the Doom Patrol book that hasn't gotten a collected edition for it too. So there is some.
I have noticed that. I am very aware of that, unfortunately.
Although we haven't seen Jessie Drake coming out of the X offices yet, and hopefully that'll happen at some point. I do want to plug a great Twitter follow at Transrage is working with a great artist, Valentine Smith, to do basically a one-issue story about Jessie Drake on Krakoa.
I'm gonna buy it. Highly recommend everybody do. It looks absolutely astonishing, or it is going to look absolutely astonishing. I've seen a lot of Valentine's work. It's incredible. Yeah.
It's an important issue that really needs to be addressed within the Marvel community.
Hey guys, if you like that cut from Xi4 Podcast, you'll be sure to like some of our other materials. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out these other amazing videos here at Xi4 Podcast.